I never expected him to get that close. Not like that. It started as something small, almost imperceptible. A glance here, a lingering touch there. I told myself I could keep it at arm's length, that I was strong enough to resist. But with him, all my defenses began to crumble without me even realizing it. He came into my life like a storm I didn't see coming, powerful and inevitable, shaking everything I thought I knew about myself and what it meant to be close to someone. And before I knew it, he was there, in my thoughts, in my skin, in every quiet moment between breaths. He got too close and I let him. At first, it was easy to ignore the pull. We met through friends, at some casual gathering filled with music and laughter, and that hum of life where connections can feel fleeting and meaningless. But he wasn't fleeting. He was steady, a quiet presence that filled the room without needing to dominate it. I noticed him watching me from across the room, not in a predatory way, but with a kind of attentive calm that made me feel safe? No, not quite safe. Something else. Seen. Understood. I hadn't realized how much I'd been craving that until I felt it from him. Our first conversation was brief, but it lingered in my mind long after. We spoke about trivial things, work, books, the rain, but it was the way he listened that caught me off guard. Not the polite nods or the polite questions I was used to, but real listening, like my words mattered, like he wanted to know me. That night, I told myself it was nothing, just a spark of something temporary. But sparks have a way of turning into fire, and that fire spread faster than I could contain. As days turned into weeks, he became a constant in my life. Not in a clingy way, but in that quiet, steady presence that filled spaces I hadn't even known were empty. We found ourselves crossing paths more often. Chance meetings, purposeful messages, subtle invitations that blurred the lines between friendship and something more. Each time, my resolve weakened. I told myself I was in control, that I could stop any time. But he pulled me in with a gravity I couldn't fight. It wasn't just the physical closeness, the brush of his hand, the way his gaze held mine a little longer than necessary. It was something deeper. He saw parts of me I'd hidden away, parts I was ashamed of, afraid to show even to myself. With him, I didn't have to pretend. I could be vulnerable without fear of judgment. It was intoxicating and terrifying all at once. The guilt crept in slowly, a shadow at the edge of my happiness. I was involved with someone else, someone who trusted me, who believed in us. I hadn't planned for any of this, hadn't wanted it to become more than it was supposed to be. But with him, lines blurred, promises faded, and I was caught in the storm of closeness I thought I could control but never did. There were nights when I lay awake, heart pounding, haunted by what I was doing. I would replay conversations in my mind, analyze every word, every look, trying to find a way out, a reason to stop before I destroyed everything. But the pull was relentless. It was like he'd unlocked something inside me I hadn't dared to touch in years. We shared stolen moments, hidden beneath the veil of normalcy, in places where no one would see. Quiet dinners, whispered confessions, touches that lingered too long. Each moment was a high, a rush of connection that made the rest of the world fall away. But with every stolen second, the weight of betrayal grew heavier. I was living a lie, and the truth was a dagger poised above my heart. One evening, as we sat by the riverbank under a sky heavy with stars, he took my hand. His touch was warm and sure, and in that instant, the world felt right again. He looked into my eyes and said, "You don't have to be afraid here. Not with me." For a fleeting moment, I believed it. I believed that closeness could be a sanctuary, that I could have both the safety I craved and the freedom I longed for. But reality has a way of intruding. The facade cracked. I caught a glimpse of his phone, messages that weren't meant for me, conversations that hinted at other lives, other loves. The closeness that had felt like a refuge turned into a prison of doubt and suspicion. The man who got too close had secrets of his own. We confronted each other in the quiet aftermath, words tumbling out in a mess of hurt and confusion. He said he never wanted to hurt me. I told him I felt betrayed. The closeness that had brought us together now threatened to tear us apart. I realized then that intimacy can be as fragile as it is powerful, and when trust breaks, the fall is devastating. I wanted to hate him, to push him away and never look back, but I couldn't, because beneath the pain was a truth I had to face. He had awakened a part of me I didn't know was alive, and in that, there was both beauty and sorrow. The days that followed were a blur of emotions. I wrestled with guilt, with longing, with the ache of what was lost and what could never be reclaimed. I questioned my choices, my worth, and my capacity to love without destroying everything I held dear. Healing didn't come quickly. It came in small, uneven steps. I learned to forgive, not just him, but myself. To accept that closeness, in all its messy, complicated glory, is a risk we take when we open our hearts. Sometimes we get burned, but sometimes we learn to burn brighter. I found strength in the quiet moments of reflection, in the support of those who stayed when the storm raged. I rebuilt the walls that had crumbled, but I left cracks, small openings where light could enter, where closeness could be welcomed without fear. The one who got too close taught me that love is never simple. It's a dance of connection and distance, trust and vulnerability. It's about knowing when to hold on and when to let go. And as I stand here now, heart bruised but open, I know that closeness, even when it hurts, is the truest form of living. Because to truly love is to risk getting too close. And sometimes, that's exactly what we need to find ourselves. He had this way of making the ordinary feel extraordinary, of turning the mundane into something I'd replay over and over in my mind. Like the time we got caught in the rain, drenched to the bone, laughing like children as we sprinted to find shelter under a creaky old awning. The world around us blurred, the city noises, the rush of people, everything. And all I could focus on was the way his eyes shone, full of warmth and mischief, like he was sharing a secret with me alone. Moments like that are easy to romanticize, but in the rawness of reality, they carried a weight I was unwilling to admit. Because closeness isn't just the laughter or the touches or the shared secrets, it's the vulnerability that comes with letting someone see the parts of you you hide from the world. The fears, the scars, the ugly bits you wish would stay buried. With him, I found myself dropping the mask more often than I ever thought I would. I showed him the dark places, the moments when I felt weak, the nights when I lay awake drowning in anxiety. He never flinched. Instead, he held me tighter, whispered words I still carry with me, words that made me believe, even if only for a moment, that maybe I wasn't broken beyond repair. But closeness also meant the slow erosion of boundaries I thought were untouchable. I started sharing things I shouldn't, expecting him to fill voids only I could heal. I leaned on him when I should have stood on my own, and he leaned back, sometimes unsure if he should catch me or step away. There were nights when the silence between us spoke louder than any confession. Times when I caught him staring at me with a look I couldn't decipher. Was it love? Regret? Or the dawning realization that he had gotten too close and the space between us was shrinking too fast? I tried to hold on to control, telling myself I could walk away any time. But the truth was, I didn't want to. I wanted the closeness, the comfort, the raw honesty. I wanted to feel seen and wanted again. Yet every time I let myself fall a little deeper, the guilt tightened its grip. I was betraying promises I'd made, to someone else, to myself. I was living a paradox, caught between loyalty and desire, between safety and risk. The breaking point came unexpectedly. One rainy afternoon, when the sky was as gray as the turmoil inside me. We were sitting across from each other in that little cafe where we first talked, the smell of coffee thick around us. I could see the hesitation in his eyes, the way his fingers fidgeted with the edge of his cup. "I think we've crossed a line we can't uncross," he said quietly. I nodded, words failing me. I knew he was right. The closeness had shifted us into a place without clear rules or safe boundaries. It was intoxicating, but it was also dangerous. He reached across the table, took my hand gently. "I don't want to hurt you." And there it was, the raw truth, the admission that closeness could hurt as much as it healed. I wanted to believe it was salvageable, that we could pull back, redefine what we had. But the line had been blurred too much. We were tangled in emotions and expectations neither of us fully understood. The days that followed were a painful dance of avoidance and confrontation. I pulled away, trying to reclaim the parts of myself I'd given over to him. He respected my space, but never stopped reaching for connection. I learned that closeness isn't just about proximity or touch, it's about trust. Trust in someone to hold your vulnerabilities without breaking, to meet your fears without judgment. When that trust fractures, closeness can become a weapon. It can wound deeper than any argument, deeper than any betrayal. I found myself asking how someone could get so close, only to become a stranger in the aftermath. How did a person who saw the darkest corners of my soul vanish when I needed them most? But through the pain, I found resilience. I began to rebuild myself with a new understanding of love and boundaries. I learned to cherish closeness, but to guard my heart more fiercely. It's a delicate balance, to let someone in, to get close, without losing yourself in the process. And sometimes the ones who get too close are the ones who teach you that balance in the hardest way possible. I carry the memory of him with both tenderness and caution. He was a mirror, reflecting parts of me I had hidden, a spark that ignited and scorched. The closeness was a gift and a wound, and now I'm ready to be close again. Wiser, more guarded, but still open. Because love, at its core, is about connection. It's about the risk of closeness, the courage to be vulnerable, and the hope that someone will hold you when you fall. That is the story of the one who got too close. A story of love's beauty and its pain, of human frailty and strength. A story I carry with me, always. I remember the way he made me feel when he got too close, the way my breath caught when his hand brushed mine, the warmth that spread through me like wildfire. It was as if he had found a way to touch parts of me I had forgotten existed. At first I thought it was exhilarating, this sudden rush of connection, of intimacy that I hadn't allowed myself in years. But soon it became overwhelming. The closeness blurred boundaries I had worked so hard to keep intact. He wasn't just near me. He was inside me, in my thoughts, in my dreams, in the quiet moments when I was supposed to be alone. Sometimes I wondered if he felt the same pull, the way closeness can be both a comfort and a cage. I saw it in his eyes, that flicker of hesitation, that brief shadow when the weight of it all seemed too much to bear. Yet, neither of us spoke about it. We pretended the closeness was enough, that it could fill the gaps and silence the doubts. But silence, I learned, has a way of growing louder, of breaking down the strongest walls. Our days became a delicate dance of getting close and pulling away, of wanting and fearing, of holding on and letting go. I found myself caught in the tension between desire and restraint, between the need for connection and the instinct to protect my heart. It was exhausting and intoxicating all at once. There were moments when I questioned myself. Why did I let him get so close? Why did I lower my guard when I knew it could lead to pain? I told myself I was strong, that I could handle it, that closeness wouldn't break me. But I was wrong. Closeness has a power that can unravel even the strongest of defenses. I remember one night in particular, when the weight of it all became too much. We sat together on the rooftop, the city lights flickering below like distant stars. The air was cool, and the silence between us was heavy with unspoken truths. He reached out and took my hand, his touch gentle but insistent. "Why are you pulling away?" he asked, his voice barely above a whisper. I looked at him, tears threatening to spill. "Because I'm scared," I admitted. "Scared that if I let you in completely, I'll lose myself." He squeezed my hand, his eyes filled with understanding. "You won't lose yourself. You'll find parts of you you didn't know existed." But even as he said those words, I knew the truth was more complicated. Getting too close meant risking everything. My sense of self, my peace, my future. It meant vulnerability, uncertainty, and sometimes heartbreak. In the end, the closeness was both our salvation and our undoing. It brought moments of unparalleled joy and connection, but it also laid bare our fears and flaws. We were two souls entangled in a web of desire and doubt, trying to navigate a path that neither of us fully understood. When we finally parted ways, there was no dramatic farewell, no promises of reunion. Just a quiet acknowledgement that sometimes closeness isn't meant to last. Sometimes it teaches us lessons we need to learn before we can move on. I carry the memory of him, of the closeness we shared, the warmth and the pain. It has changed me, shaped me, and made me more aware of the delicate balance between connection and self-preservation. Now, when I think of closeness, I think of courage. The courage to open your heart, to risk everything, and to accept that love is never perfect. It is messy, complicated, and sometimes painful, but always worth it. The one who got too close will always be a part of my story, a chapter of love, loss, and learning. And as I continue forward, I carry that closeness with me, not as a burden, but as a reminder of what it means to truly live and love. There is a moment in every story where you realize that some people enter your life not to stay forever, but to change you. That was him, the one who got too close. He wasn't meant to be my forever, but he was meant to teach me something I desperately needed to learn. After we parted, I thought I'd be broken beyond repair. I thought I'd never feel that kind of closeness again without fear gripping my heart. But time has a way of healing wounds and reshaping perspectives. It taught me that closeness is a gift, even when it comes with pain. I learned to cherish the quiet spaces within myself, the moments when I am alone but not lonely. I learned that I don't have to be afraid to let someone in, even if it means risking heartbreak. Because every risk, every connection, is part of what it means to be alive. I also learned to forgive him for the closeness that was sometimes too much, and to forgive myself for letting him in. Forgiveness didn't erase the past, but it freed me from carrying the weight of it endlessly. Our story didn't end with a grand declaration or a neat resolution. It ended quietly, like a sunset fading into twilight, leaving behind a sky full of possibility. And in that quiet ending, I found a new beginning, one where I am stronger, wiser, and more open to love in all its messy, beautiful forms. So here I am, still carrying the imprint of the one who got too close, not as a scar, but as a mark of growth. Because closeness, even when it hurts, is the very thing that makes life worth living. And when the time comes to let someone get close again, I will welcome it, with open arms and a fearless heart. Because that is the true courage of love, to let go of fear and simply be